Okay, so Bezras Hashem, we are continuing with our Shirim and Likkutei Moharan. And as we just said a moment ago, Rabbeinu says all beginnings start from Purim. It used to be that all beginnings started from Pesach. And then something shifted. Rabbeinu doesn't explain exactly what that shift is, but we've spoken about in the past how Rabbi Nachman, especially as Rabbi Nassan understood it, Pesach is starting from a place where everything is mesudar, everything is okay, and I'm going to work from that place of okayness to try and grow from that place. And that works for people who have that upright nature where they can function like tzaddikim. But then there comes a time in history, especially our generation, especially those who are makusher to the Nachal Nevi Makra Chachma, where even pretending that we can be Pesach Yidin doesn't make it out of the front gate, right? We can't pretend that we're starting with Tahara Gemura. We can't pretend that we're starting with the clarity from Al Chametz. Adar Abba Ipla Mistabra. We're Tameh Tumas Misa, and we're Tameh with all sorts of Tumah that we're trying to clear ourselves out of, but we're Pesach Sheni Yidin. And the question of Lama Nigara, why is it that we should lose out, starts. And so Rabbeinu's answer was really that, okay, that was back then that you had to start from the Tahara of Para, which then leads to the freedom of Pesach. But now, for us, it's about Purim. It starts from Purim, which means to say that a person starts where they're at. A person starts where they find themselves. A person starts where the dust settles. The first person starts where they remember who they are. When a person comes to consciousness again, in that very often painful memory of all of the time we just spent wasting, or the time that we weren't conscious, that moment of coming back to consciousness, of remembering, is always the secret of Hadar Kiblu B'Meach HaSherosh. That when we were born, we received the Torah from Har Sinai. And every time that we forget about that, we fall into concealment. And then every time we remember the Torah, every time we remember our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's a secret of being Makabel the Torah again, but this time no longer under duress, because we've already lost. We've already lost our attention. We're no longer operating from that excitement of the beginning. That excitement of the beginning has died down. And if I'm going to base all of my continued spiritual growth on the beginning, that's already gone. So theoretically, I'm going to be left with nothing. So comes along the secret of Hischatshus Tamidi, the secret of Tchias HaMesim and the Torah Minayin, is the secret of Purim that we can bring all of ourselves back to HaKadosh Baruch. So that's where we're starting. We started talking about this, but we're looking in Pei Beis in Tinyana. Now, Pei Gimel in Tinyana, rather. Now, Pei Gimel in Tinyana, as the Siach Sarfei Kodesh says, Rav Levi Yitzchak Bender said that this Torah, we know, is a remnant from the Sefer HaNisraf. That this is something that was part of the book that Rabbi Nachman wrote that he wanted burnt for the very purpose of burning the book. It wasn't like, oh, it was supposed to be revealed and then it was burnt. The purpose of the book was for it to be burnt. And in that act of burning, there was an awakening of a Torah that's written in smoke in the sky, so that a person wandering without books, without mind, without head, without heart, can look up at the stars, as Rabbeinu says, and they can enter into the conversation of the Torah of reality itself. That's what's hinted in the burnt book. But there were certain elements that were retrieved. They were retrieved and they were maintained for posterity, and they were also planted firmly within the second volume of Likkutei Moharan, as we said, based on the recent scholarship of Tzimar. Now, in Torah Pei Gimel, this is one that's always been known. Torah Pei Gimel is a Torah that's referred to as a Torah from the Sefer HaNisraf, in addition to one other piece of information that is said to come from the Sefer HaNisraf, which is that the mitzvah that's going to bring Mashiach Tzidkenu is Hachnasas Orchim, and making the bed. We have those two lines, and we don't have much explanation on it, and then we have Torah Pei Gimel. Then, throughout the pages of Likkutei Moharan Tinyana, we encounter more and more of Sefer HaNisraf. But what is Sefer HaNisraf? What are we talking about when we talk about Sefer HaNisraf? So like we said already in the name of the Rebbe Shlita, that we have to reorient ourselves to the fact that Likkutei Moharan is a living text, right? Anything that's associated with Purim has certain halachos to it. And one of the halachos that we learned by Purim is called Hamevi Davar B'Shem Omro Mevi Geula La'olam, right? That ability to bring something back up to the source from whence it came is the same secret of Katvuni Lidoros, that Esther Malka and Mordechai Tzaddik wanted their experience to be written down for generations. Why? What's the purpose of an event being contained within a text? Because when we read the text, we're not just reading historical pasts that have taken place, but we're actually reawakening and reaccessing the very same potency that took shape at that point in history And by reading it in the text, when I read the words in the name of Mordechai Tzaddik, when I read the words in the name of Rabbi Nachman, so I'm actually awakening a framework of Geula surrounding me, a makif, right? There's a makif that opens up, a person opens up a new layer of Geula, so that when I learn the words of the tzaddikim, I can actually draw down the vitality that the tzaddikim left imprinted within their holy books, and I can awaken my soul. I can give myself more spiritual strength than I had a moment before. That learning the book of a tzaddik has the ability to be Machayim Mesim because it gives you more strength than you had the moment before you open the book. Now that's Likkutei Moharan B'derech Klal, but then the Sefer HaNisraf is a hidden layer to the book. It's not a secondary book, but it's buried within the book itself. And inside of the Sefer HaNisraf is the Sefer HaGanuz. There's the book of concealment. So that when I'm reading the explicit text of Likkutei Moharan, so that's like the das of Likkutei Moharan. That's where I'm understanding what Rabbeinu is saying. But every time I'm understanding what Rabbeinu is saying to the degree that I can understand it, there is always more that is left unsaid within what the text is telling me. There's always more that the Torah intimates towards me that I can't yet understand from the Meforshim, that I can't yet understand necessarily from the Chavrusa that I'm learning Likkutei Moharan with. Because the Sefer HaNisraf now goes into the very interiority of the neshama of the reader, and it accesses elements of the self through that text that only the person is aware of. That there's the revealed meaning of the text, and then there's the intimations and the ideas and the references and the trigger points that a person encounters when they read the fluid nature of Rabbeinu's Torah that awakens a certain tchias hamesim within the self. It awakens a lost love. It awakens kind of a memory that's ancient, that's profoundly evocative. It takes a person back to a place prior to knowledge. I can't necessarily describe what the text is evocating for me, but it evokes a deep sense of longing and yearning. And that's found also in Sipurei Maisios so much. But the Sefer HaNisraf is the burning heart at the heart of Likkutei Moharan. And then there's the Sefer HaGanuz, which is the Bittul Muchletas of it, how each and every Torah can lead a person directly into the Yechudim. As Rabbi Nachman said, that I came to teach a new path of Yechudim that has not been revealed yet. The path of Yechudim is living every ounce of a person's life with the profound illumination of that I am a Merkava for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And just like the depth of Torah's Chabad teaches, what Rabbeinu teaches, that the Iker is to be a Shliach for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As Rabbi Nassan writes in Hilchos Shluchim Halacha Daled, which the Rebbe Shlita was told by Maharash is the most important place in Likkutei Halachos. It teaches us that on the level of Sefer HaGanuz, we're a Merkava for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But now what we're going to look at is Torah Pei Gimel. So I see I have written here that I think when learning the Torah, I don't have a remez on the gematria of the Torah itself, but Pei Gimel is from the word Vayipag libo, that when Yosef HaTzadik meets Yaakov finally, so the tsar of his heart is diminished. There's a relinquishment, there's a release from the pain of his heart. So to a certain degree, this Torah has the ability to create a Vayipag libo, that it has the ability to take away a lot of the stress of the heart. That's what I found. And so, because it's Sefer HaNisraf, and because it is far more of a concealed text, Rabbeinu is going to be a lot more associative here. It's going to be without a lot of the fillers that typically make clear sentences in the Torah, and it's going to be a much quicker, kind of far more associative flow that we're going to go slow in, and we're going to try and see exactly the insight that we can garner for ourselves, Be'ezus Hashem. Torah Pei Gimel. So Rabbeinu starts as follows: Al yedei tikun abris shehu keshet, yochol lohoitzi hachitzim, shehu hatfila, shehu chai birchen detzlusa, shein tlos vavin bebchinas chitzin, u'mekoymem bebris, bebchinas brisi ne'eman lo. So Rabbi Nachman is explaining one of the fundamental elements of what it means to be a Yid is to properly manage our behavior in this world. The way that we properly manage our behavior in this world is specifically in the area of the midos themselves. It's not the moichin necessarily, not my contemplation that is going to dictate the way I function in the day-to-day, but it's going to be my midos. It's going to be my chesed, my gevura, and my teferes. Chesed, gevura, and teferes represent ahava, yira, and dvekas. Connectivity to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a fear and an awesome awareness of the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then my ability to build a relationship of real connectivity to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. After those three expressions of Chesed and Gevura Tiferes, we've quoted in the past from the Rebbe, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod represent further iterations of those stages. So Chesed expresses itself in Netzach, which is the memory of love. Gvura expresses itself in Hod, which is the memory of fear. And Tiferes expresses itself in Yesod, which is the memory of Dvekus. Yesod is the memory of Dvekus. Yesod is that deep sense of connectivity that we all know that we have, that we all know that we have experienced, and we all want to recreate for ourselves. Now, because Yesod, his kashrus, Dvekus, is so emblemic of the fact that the Yid can be Mekusher to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that every Yid is a tzaddik, it's a profoundly delicate place, because any deviation away from the hyper essentiality of what Yesod represents is going to be a deterring away from the middle path. Yesod is hyper essentiality. We've spoken about this. It means the ability to maintain a fundamental connection to the essential point in the moment in front of me, to guard that point of essentiality, to make sure that something that is meant for something doesn't go to something else. In the secret of the Tikkun HaBris, that bris is a hyper essentiality, as the Zohar, the Tikkun Zohar says in the Hakdama, that when it comes to the midah of Yesod, tishkach rikia, you find the rikia, and you take the osios of rikia, and you come out with the osios of ikr. That the secret of the Yesod is that there's an ikr in the world, there's a tachlis, and there's a tachlis of the tachlis, and every Yid's job is to utilize their Yesod, the sense of wanting to connect to something in this Welt, and to connect in the right way. Now, Yesod, like we said, is a conduit for all of the three lines that precede it. So Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes, the right side, the left side, and the middle column, love, fear, and connection, which is built out of a composite of both of them, they all find expression within Yesod. So that Yesod is literally that point of expression where the self now is really going to be able to show how it can engage in this worldliness. That's where Yesod is mispashet outwards. Yesod is how am I going to function? And that's where the pagam takes place, and it's also where the biggest tikkun can take place. The Yesod is usually referred to as chai alman. It's the life of the individual. Yesod is where life comes from. Yesod is what brings out more life, and Yesod is where a person can cultivate a deep sense of life within themselves. Now, because Yesod is referred to as chai alman, as life of the worlds, so the Tikkun Zohar looks at this gematria of Chai, it's 18. What is it about Yesod that's going to be attached to the number of 18? So we just saw that each of those three lines, Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes, we can assume that each of them represent a Vav. They each represent kind of the three lines in which a person experiences life, the Chesed, the Gvura, and Tiferes, and they all join together in Yesod. So these three Vavs, the Vav of Chesed, the Vav of Gvura, and the Vav of Tiferes, the three angles in which a person can function in this world, all find expression within the Midah of Yesod, which is why Yesod is called Chai Olamim. It's 18 because it contains the meeting point of the tripartite directionality that human experience can go, the left, the right, or the center. The Tikkun Zohar describes this as a keshet, as a bow and arrow. The Yesod is referred to as a bow and arrow. Why? Because the Yesod is where I express myself from inside of myself towards outside of myself. Every word that I say, every action that I engage in, any gesture I give over to another person is my way of being mashpia outside of myself, which is a midah of the Yesod. And just like a bow and arrow, it takes an arrow and it shoots an arrow from a close place and it sends it far out, and it enables that expression to extend itself further. So when we say that there's shloisha chitzin, that there's three arrows to the bow and arrow, that is the Yesod, that means for our purposes is that the human being is composed of three compartments, Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes, love, fear, and the combination between the two of them. All three of those arrows need to be able to find expression within the Yesod, so that when Yesod shoots itself outwards to connect to something else by way of Machshava, Dibur, Meiser, any event in my life has the ability to be a moment of hiskashos with Yesod. So in that place, when the arrows go to the intended mark, so that's going to be the secret of the Tikkun HaBris. So now let's look at the words of Rabbi Nachman. Ayidei Tikkun HaBris. So when a person rectifies the bris, which is I develop a hyper sense of essentiality in my life, and I take each and every moment seriously, and I know that each and every moment is its own mission that has not been repeated before, nor will it be repeated afterwards, and that every moment can be met with a sense of mi yodea im le'es kazo sigata l'malchus, because we know that Yesod is the thing that extends out to malchus. It's what culminates something. So each and every moment in a person's life is a preparation for that moment. And so Tikkun HaBris is the element of the keshet. And when a person has a keshet rectified, Yochol lahoitzi hachitzim shehu hatfila shehu chai birchen detzlusa shem plus vavim. When the bris is metukan properly, when a person has an alignment with their chesed, their gvura, and their teferes, with their love, with their fear, and the ability to balance both of those, so what that congeals into, when the bris is properly rectified, the natural outgrowth is tefillah. Tefillah is malchus. Tefillah is the fourth element that comes after tikkun habris. When we talk about the yichud of kudsha b'richu v'shchinte, when we talk about the yichud of the tzaddik and knesses Yisrael, what we're talking about is the yichud between yisoid and malchus. Every experience in life, everything that we see is a reflection of the hischabris or the pirud between yisoid and malchus, between above and below. When we rectify that which needs to be rectified from above, which are the shlosha vavim, the chesed, the gvura, and the teferes, and the desire, and the concern, and the attachments that we have within ourselves, and they're rectified properly, the next expression of the self is going to be tefillah, that I'm going to be able to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that I'm going to come to understand that all of my preparation of my midos, all of my alignment of self, according to the three tripartite breakdowns of myself, is all for the sake of tefillah. That's what the Zohar Kadosh says when it says, Man de zacha lekatla liachevya zacha lebrasa de malka. Someone who merits to kill the snake is going to merit to retrieve the lost princess, because the lost princess is tefillah. The princess is tefillah. It's the ability to realize my neshama is always connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In order to kill the snake, in order to get rid of all of the klipos that attack us, the Esav, the Ishmael, the Amalek, each of those klipos attack one of the elements of Chesed, Gvura, Teferes. Chesed is Avraham. That's the outgrowth, negativity-wise, of Yishmael. Yitzchak is the left side, negatively speaking, it's going to express itself as Edom. Yaakov, in that negative expression of Yaakov, it's going to be the secret of Amalek. Those three klipos try and attack us on nachiza, on the yesod, which means they try and break us, they try and make us feel disconnected, and ultimately all of it is to ensure that we don't come to understand the true secret of tefillah. The tikkun habris is there to describe to me and give me access to the true koyach of tefillah. So when I can rectify those three arrows, which are 3 times 6, so then I'm going to have 18, which are the 18 brachos of Shemona Esrei. The 18 brachos of Shemona Esrei are the 3 vavin of Chesed, Gvur, and Teferes that unify within the Yesod, and when there's a chibur between the two of them, there's going to be real tefillah. The Bechin of Chitzim, and the place that those express themselves, says Rabbeinu, is Makomam Bebris, Bebechinas Ubrisi Ne'emanaslo, that the place where the true ne'emanis of the individual is going to be expressed, the hyper-focus of the self. When I wake up in the morning and I say, this is how I want to think today, this is what I want my mind to be attached to today. When I stand before Mincha and I say, for the next 3 minutes, I'm really going to try and attach my mind to the simple meaning of the words and not lose focus. And even if I lose focus, to return it gently back to the simple meaning of the words, that setting of intention is the preparation of the chibur of the Yesod with Malchus. The preparation of the chibur is that I have ne'emanis to me. All parts of myself are operating in unison. My chesed, which is my desire to connect, my gevura, which is my desire to disconnect, and my teferes, which was the paradoxical way in which I grapple with both of those oppositional polarities in my life. All of that prepares us for tefillah. And then when the bris is ne'eman, so then we have emuna, which is the bechina of tefillah. So we have the bris, the tikkun habris, the shlosh vavim, the chai olamim of yesod, which then gives us the secret light of tefillah, which is emuna. In the secret of vayehi yadav emuna. This is what we saw in Torah Vav about the dancing and the clapping. The secret of the hands is the secret of tefillah, which is the secret of emuna. How do we know? We see vayehi yadav emuna, that the hands of Moshe Rabbeinu awoken the Amunah of Klal Yisrael, not because there was koyach to the hands of Moshe, but because the hands of Moshe represented the fact that we are completely dependent upon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that we have to gaze upwards, which is the secret of tefillah. And in that place, when we're ne'eman, when we have that kedusha sabris, when we know the way that we're revealing ourselves in this world, so then we're going to be zolchet to the secret of Amunah, to the secret of tefillah, to the secret of Vayihi Yadav Amunah. Ve'az hatchalas smichas keren Mashiach. And when we can bring our whole selves, our chesed, our gvura, and our teferes, the 3 vavs, the 3 directions in which we want to operate in this world, and we can unify it with Malchus, that's going to be the birthplace of Mashiach Tzidkenu. That's going to be the Es Tzemach David, because Tefillah is Mashiach. The Heiliger of Pinchas Karitzer said, people make a mistake. Tefillah doesn't bring Mashiach. Tefillah is Mashiach. When a person is davening, when a person has kavana, when a person has kavanas hamilim, and they're in the first bracha of Shemona Esrei, and it's ki'ilu oimid lifnei hamelech, or when a person has the hitznoitzitz of moichin in the middle of their tefillah, it's not that, oh, let me daven now so that I should have something else. I have to understand that the words leaving my lips are the Shekhinah itself, and in this place, in this moment of tefillah, everything is good. Malchus is here. Shechina is here. Einon Mavado is there in that moment of tefillah. As the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh said, that the ikr is to realize that in each and every os of tefillah, in each and every letter that compose the words of tefillah, I have to have the intention in my mind that if I gaze long enough at the letter, I will come to find that there is oilamos, neshamos, and elokus. There is this worldliness, there is my soul that encounters this worldliness, and there is elokus, which rests beyond this worldliness, which means to say that every encounter with every word of tefillah is either a bridge or a separation between reality, myself, and God. And the thing that enables reality to be connected to God, that allows Oilamos to be connected to Elokus, is the neshama, is the self. That's the kavanas hatfila. And when a person does that, it's already smichas karen Mashiach in the element of atzmiach karen leDavid bebechinas karnayim meyadolo. How do we see that tefillah itself is going to be the element of the birth of Mashiach? Because we just saw that tefillah, which is malchus, which is the culmination of the shlosha chitzin of the keshet of Yesod, is going to be emuna, which is tefillah v'yad of emuna. And we also see that tefillah and Emunah are the element of Vias Mashiach, which is also connected to the crowning of David HaMelech, which is also considered like the hands of David. So we see that it's the hands themselves that are going to connect the secret of tefillah to Mashiach. But for the purpose of what we're saying, we have the shlosha chitzim, the three arrows of Chesed, Gvur, and Tiferes that align together in the hyper-significance and the hyper-essentiality of the Yesod, of attachment and attention. And then when I have that, I extend myself into the realm of Tefillah, and that's where the secret of Mashiach Tzidkenu is Niskala. Why? The Bechina of the hands is the element of Tefillah. And there's three Tfilos. The three Tfilos and Mashiach Tzidkenu is the secret of the yichud of Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, and Yesod with Malchus. The three tfilos of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, which are the Chesed, the Gvura, and the Tiferes, the love, the fear, and the attachment, which combines both of them. And then, as a result of all three of those, when Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are together, there's always going to be a fourth. The fourth is always going to be David HaMelech. David HaMelech is referred to as the Regel HaRevi'i Shebemerkava, meaning to say, anytime we have a yichud of Ava, Yira, and Dvekas, Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes, and that Chibur in the Yesod, it's going to express itself in the secret of Tefillah, which is the secret of David HaMelech, which is the secret of Mashiach Tzidkenu being attached to the Avos. That there's the Avos, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, which is the secret of the three Vavs of the Yesod, which compose the 18 brachos of Shemona Esrei, which is Shachar, Mincha, and Marav, and that is going to lead to the element of Mashiach, which is the element of Dibor, which is the element of davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the element of Masiach Ilimim Shehu Me'esh Mayim V'Ruach. Here Rabbeinu makes a fundamental connection that the language of Mashiach comes from the language of speaking, Mesiach. Mesiach, giving speech to those who are speechless, literally saying that when we can unify the elements of our bris together, when we can take all of the parts of ourselves and align them so that they can be a singular force that enables those chitzin to be shot with strength, and that everything that I encounter in this world is an opportunity to me to find dveikus to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to uncover the Nekuda of Beis HaMikdash in that place. At that point, there's going to be a Hiskalis of Mashiach Tzidkenu, which is the language of Tefillah, and that's also the element of all Dibor being made of Eish Mayim and Ruach, that there's heat, there's the coolness to the heat, and then there's the unity between the coolness and the heat in every element of speech, which then culminates in speech. That's the same relationship as Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and Mashiach. And I hope, Chevra, it's possible that we bit off more than we can tonight by looking at this Torah, but we'll go weiter. Ve'az nasa ben chayrin. When a person is able to do this, when a person is able to unify all of the elements of themselves, the impulse towards expression outwards, the chesed impulse within me, the fact that I want to do something right now, and then the gvura element within me, which is my capacity to overcome immediate gratification and to be koveshetz my yetzer, and to become stronger than I thought I actually could be, and then to learn how to unify those two elements together to reveal them in the guise of Yaakov. When a person does that, they're a ben chayrin. They're ben chayrin, and a ben chayrin has the ability to daven. They're free. They have moichin of chayrus. We know that when there's a pagam in the bris, there's a pagam in the way that I function in the Welt. There's a pagam in the way that I relate to other people. There's a pagam in the way that I speak to other people. There's a pagam in the way that I think about other people. There's a pagam in the way that I think about myself. That's pigmei habris. That's when there's a bittul of the bris, and that's when a person begins to feel like an eved. The eved and the shibud and the atzvus and the heaviness and the gullus of it all. All of that comes from the pagam hayasod, which is ultimately a lack of connectivity, a lack of directionality, a lack of a belief that there's something essential in each and every moment. And in that place we're in Gullus, in that place we're in Gullus Mitzrayim. As long as a person is stuck within the scatteredness of themselves, where I'm one way now and I'm one way then and I'm one way then and I'm always posturing how I'm going to be in different ways, that's pirud, that's pizur nefesh, that's pagam habris. The tikkun habris is the coalescence of all of the different forces of myself into a singular pointed expression where I know that this is my inyan. Tzaddik be'emunasol yichya. This is my nakud of tzaddik, and this is how I'm going to reveal myself in the world. And when a person does that, they're memela are zocha to the bas melech, they're memela zocha to tefillah, their entire existence becomes tefillah. And when a person's entire existence becomes tefillah, they're a ben chayrin. Because to be a ben chayrin, to be a free person, is to not be stuck in the sadness and the concealment that comes along with feeling that I am victim to the natural way that this world functions. To feel that I am a victim to the natural proclivity of things, where the world appears to be devoid of the light of God, God forbid, or where I find myself operating in a hastara. When a person's mind is stuck in that place, they're an eved. Tachas eved ki yimloch. The eved takes over. The eved is in place of the king, and we live with eyes of impoverishment, and we live with eyes of servitude, and we live with a fear of every incoming moment, because what's this moment going to bring for me? I'm scattered every second, so now it's going to be another element of scatteredness. But with tikkun abris, which gives birth to tefillah, so then we're nasa ben chayrin. We have freedom in us. We open our minds to freedom. We own ourselves. We take confidence in the moment itself. Hainu shabal l'kedusha Shabbos. What does it mean to be a free person? It means to come to the place of the holiness of Shabbos. The holiness of Shabbos is tefillah. The holiness of Shabbos is David Malka Mashiach, is va'ani tefillah. I don't have to do anything. Ani tefillah, my entire expression is an expression to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm a ben chayrin. I don't have to go and do anything. We live as avadim the rest of the week, where I'm going out to search for what's going to make me feel good. How am I going to feel good through my ava? How am I going to feel good through my gvura? How am I going to feel good through my teferis? What are the accomplishments that I can gain? What is the spiritual portfolio that I can build for myself so that I will feel valuable? But on Shabbos, there's a recognition of al teitzei ish me'makomo, that there's no need to do anything. It's moichin dechirus. It's the recognition that by dint of the fact that I'm simply aligning myself and ensuring that the parts of myself are not completely in control of the small city that is the self, but rather the mind is taking control. In that place, a person is a ben chayrin, and there's zeicha to the kedusha of Shabbos, to the secret of kol malachtecha asuya, of being okay. That's the secret of Shabbos. Tefillah Shabbos is being okay. Sha'asr b'melacha. The secret of Shabbos, the secret of Amunah, the secret of the tikkun of Malchus and Tefillah is that I don't have to do any heavy labor. I don't have to go out and build anything. Ki Shabbos zu shin bas, because the secret of Shabbos is the shin, which is the three vavs of Chesed, Gvur, and Teferes, which are the 18 elements of the 18 brachos. That's the tikkun of the bris. And then Memela, what happens when we have that shin is that we have the bas, which is the Malchus, which is Tefillah, which is Amunah, and that's the yichud of the shin, which is Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, which is the tikkun habris, and the bas, which is Malchus. On Shabbos, there's a yichud of the two of them, and a person is Nasa ben chayrim. Shabbos zu shin bas. Shin is the tlas gavanin of Eish, Ruach, and Mayim. The shin represents the three colors of Eish, Mayim, and Ruach, the secret of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And the bas is the secret of the tefillah, the secret of the bas of Avram Avinu. That's the element of the brachos, the secret of bas hayaloyu b'chol shema, that her name, the daughter of Avram Avinu, her name was everything, because when a person has the secret of Malchus and the secret of Shabbos and the secret of Emunah, that is the next result of the Yichud and the Tikkun Habris and the Seder HaInyanim internally, then a person is going to have everything. A person is not going to be lacking anything, and that's the secret of Shabbos, and that's what it means, Hashem Beirach es Avram Bakol. Zak the Heilige Rebbe, the Kedusha Shabbos, Zu B'chinas Tachlis Hayediyah. So what does it mean that we want to get to Kedusha Shabbos? What does it mean that we want to get to Tefillah? What does it mean that we want to get to Amunah? What does it mean that we want to get to a place of Chayrus? What does it mean that we want our Tikkun Habris to reveal itself in a smooth, settled way in which our entire existence is reflective of our unity with the Kadosh Baruch Hu without effort? that I don't have to put in the malacha of chesed, gvur, and teferes, but rather I can sit in the tefillah of it all, in the David Malka Mashiach of it all, in the secret of Va'ani tefillah. The tachlis of Shabbos, what is Shabbos? It's the tachlis hayediyah. Shabbos is the apex of wisdom. And what's the apex of wisdom? Tachlis hayediyah shalei neda. Shabbos represents this chirus, this emuna represents the recognition that I don't know anything at all, that I thought I knew what was needed. I thought I knew what I was needed for. I thought I knew what would populate my portfolio. I thought I knew what would my calling card be in this world, how I would be able to express myself to others. Comes Shabbos, it's the recognition that a person doesn't know anything. Only a Kadosh Baruch Hu knows. And in that place of emuna, in that tachlis hayediyah shalei neda, in that place of tefillah, I'm relinquishing my previous knowledge, not by way of trauma of suddenly realizing that, wow, what I thought I knew is not what I'm going to get, but rather by way of freedom of realizing that, I didn't know that I could free myself from this terror of not knowing. All along, we're terrified of not knowing because we're convinced that a person has to know in order to function. But the knowledge is only true on the level of Yesod, on the level of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, on the level of tefillah, on the level of preparing oneself for tefillah. But when a person experiences tefillah itself, at that place, it's tachlis hayediyah shalei neda, and that's the light of Shabbos. Ubeshvil zeh Shabbos nikra tachlis shemayim va'aretz, because Shabbos represents this recognition that besof davar kol nishma, all I have is emuna, all I have is the ability to recognize that I'm a shliach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in every part of myself. So that's the tachlis of creation, which is the tachlis hayediyah shalei neda. And the tachlis, the element of the tachlis is amarti echakmeh v'hi rechokem mimeni. I thought I was wise. I thought I knew what the tachlis was. All week I think I know what the tachlis is, until I come to Shabbos and I realize that rechokem mimeni, it's far from me. All I have is emuna. Zeh ikar hachachma. This is the fullest expression of chachma. The fullest expression of chachma, sheyaskil sherochek mimenu hachachma, that a person remembers that I am very far from wisdom. That is the secret of Shabbos. That is the secret of Bittul. That is the secret of everybody goes free on Shabbos, even the souls in Gehenna, because all Gehenna comes from the fact that I want and I don't have. I want and I don't have. I expect and I don't get. I expect and I don't get. I try and I'm not accomplishing. I try and I'm not accomplishing. All of it is rooted in expectation and the desire for reward, which is all very understandable. But what that does when life is not working exactly as a person wants it to work, is that a person very quickly finds themselves in Gehenna itself. The secret of Gan Eden, the secret of the fires of Gehenna stopping, is that I stop desiring anything. I desire just one thing and one thing alone, which is to be a reflection of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the secret of Emunah, and that's the Tachlis HaChachma. Zok the Heilige Rebbe, the Tachlis Hazeh hu Ikar HaMakom. When I come to this recognition, when I come to this place of Shabbos, when I come to this deep place of Emunah, then I recognize that the entire alignment of myself in all three compartments of it, my Avram, my Yitzchak, and my Yaakov, is meant to lead to a singular tachlis. Then the entirety of existence becomes the place in which I can find HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When I live with Moichin of Shabbos, when I live with Moichin of Mashiach, when I live with Moichin of presence, I don't have to search anywhere for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere. Hine makom iti, there's a place with me. Kovea makom l'tefillah, make the place that you are in the place in which you can reveal the potency of tefillah. The tachlis hazehu ikar hamakom, the tachlis hayediyah shalei neda, which is the secret of Shabbos, which is the secret of the tikkun habris. That tachlis is the fullest expression of the place. But that's not a place in terms of a geographic location that I'm walking towards. It's the revelation that every geographic location is saturated with the tachlis to such a degree that it becomes the very place that I'm trying to get to. It's the secret of Pitzas Haderech, that the entirety of the world is folded under a singular point of space, and then that singular point of space, which is Eretz Yisrael, extends itself everywhere. And then when a person is attached to the Ikar Nukud of Makom, which is the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so then wherever I am is where I can find HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I don't have to leave my place. The Bechina of the Makom Shel Olam, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Makom Shel Olam. From the perspective of Shabbos, from the perspective of Tachlis Hayediyah Shalei Neda, from the perspective of Malchus, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the place of the world, meaning all of existence takes place within the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which again reminds me that I don't have to run so fast. I don't have to do so much. I don't have to be so afraid of being kicked out of the circle of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence. There is no outside of the circle of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence. There's moichin that make me feel like I'm outside of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence, but But the Gilui of Shabbos is that there's no such thing as being outside of a Kadosh Baruch Hu's presence. And in that place, wherever I am is good enough. I don't have to go running for other places. And this is the element of Huma Komo Shel Olam, Shazet Tachlis. This is the Tachlis, Shu HaMakif Shel Es Kol HaOlam Sheniver B'Chachma. This is the surrounding light of all of existence. That Makif of all of existence is the fact that everything is contained within the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. K'mo shekasav kulam b'chachma asitza. Everything is created by way of Chachma. But again, the way that Chachma reveals itself is by realizing that I don't know how Chachma is revealing itself other than by taking the confidence and the trust to know that I can find HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this place right now. And this is the element of HaKoveya Makom L'Tfilah. So somebody who creates a space for their tefillah. What Rabbeinu is saying, I think what Rabbeinu is hinting is such a profound element that a person can live their lives in two ways, that I have to run to the place that I can daven in, and if I'm not at that place yet, I can't daven there. Only when I get to that place, I can daven there. And then there's the perspective of a person's entire metzius being mishapech into tefillah, and then wherever I go, I'm kovea makom letfilasi. That wherever I'm walking, wherever my feet take me is a place for tefillah, because every ounce of existence has now shown itself to be equal distance to the makif hagadol, which is the tachlis hayediyah shel neda, which is the secret of emunah. And when I come to that perspective of chayris, I'm no longer stuck within this tripartite breakdown of past, present, future, or Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, or the shlosha kitzin of the bris. I'm operating in a place of there's no need to go anywhere. I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm in that secret of malchus and emunah. The az poishet gufo hamitzora. What happens then when a person enters into Shabbos? What happens when a person is able to rectify their yesod? When a person is able to align all elements of themselves, their machshava, the dibor, and their maisa, the chesed, the gevura, and the teferes, the moich and the midos, and the habituated elements of self. When we're able to work through all of that disparity of the self and draw all of it together, so we free ourselves from the confines of the body. The body is the 6 days of the week. The body is the jail cell. The body is the difference. The body is the tzimtzum. The body is the kli. The body is the separation between Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. The body is the fact that Avram has Yishmael come from him, that Yitzchak has Esav come from him, that Yaakov has the issues that he struggles with. It's all mitzad the body. It's all mitzad the guf itself, because that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted this existence to be. It is a neshama that's melubish beguf. So for our purposes, the guf are those three arrows. It's the chesed, gevura, teferes. It's the yesod. And the neshama is the malchus. The neshama is that light that descends deeply into ourselves. As long as we have not found the makom of tefillah, as long as we have not discovered Beis Hamikdash, as long as we have not found the Bas Melech, and we haven't uncovered the perpetual tefillah of the body itself, the body is still blocking the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu from being revealed. Now, it's not that a person has to leave the body, God forbid. That's not the point. The person has to refine the body, has to be mezachich the body. The entire notion of tikkun abris, of mikvah, of all of the things that we do to cultivate some semblance of tahara in our lives is all about healthy living. It's all about trying to reconnect ourselves to simplified layers of existence, to go back to a place prior to blemish, to go back to a place of simplicity where the body is not this katnas or with an ayin, which is a concealing levush, which is what happens after the Chet of Adam Arishon, but rather the body goes back to being katnas or with an aleph, which is the begadim of Rebbe Meir, which is illuminating itself. Levush, the body is a levush. The levush could do one or two things. It can reveal the neshama, or it could conceal the neshama. Prior to the sin of Adam Harishon and Chava, the body revealed the neshama. We were engarbed with something referred to as a zihiru ilah, that the guf itself was mezuchach, betachlis hazichuch, in the secret of the chashmal ha'elyon, that it was translucent and it shone forth like a clarity of the sun. After the sin, what happened was the body fell into a mishka dechivya. It was tainted by the venom of the serpent, and it became the body that gives us issues. It's the body that's hungry. It's the body that's in pain. It's the body that creates all of the discrepancy and makes us feel like we can't serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But when a person is mataking the bris, and a person collects all of the differentiated feelings within themselves, and they're directed to a singular place, as poishet gufo hamitzora, a person gets rid of their guf, which is tainted and poisoned and infected with sara'as. Sara'as is what happens when all a person has is bina, when I'm stuck just in the separation of it all. When I enter into Shabbos, I'm disrobing that guf of sara'as and I'm garbing myself in chavod and teferes, in a new expression of the body, that the body is revealing itself in a clarified way. And at this point, the body is no longer keeping score only of the traumas of the past, but the body at this point is keeping score of the future and the secret of Tchiyas HaMesim. Because we get rid of our guf, that is a mitzora, shu mimishka de chivya, which comes from the pollution of the snake. The loivish big day Shabbos, and what we do is we engarb ourselves in big day Shabbos. Big day Shabbos is always a reminder of what we're going back to. We're going back to the begadim of Rabbi Meir. We're going back to that place before the chait. That's what we do when we get dressed up for Shabbos. We're showing that the body itself, the eating, the engagement, all of this is not going to be counter spiritual development, but rather it's going to be the very place in which spiritual development is going to be most deeply expressed. What are big day Shabbos? Hainu guf kadosh megan eden. What we draw down for ourselves on Shabbos, each and every person draws down a new lavush, a zehiru ilah, from Gan Eden itself. Ki hamakom gorim, because the place, like we just said, the place of Shabbos, when I enter into that moichin of I am here and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is here because I'm not running away from anything. I've been able to be miyached, all of the elements, all of the shloisha chitzin, and I've been able to collect them all together into the keshet, and I've been able to be miyached yosod and malchus, and that place, it's Kol ha'olam is the makom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then it's like the makom is goyrim, and at that place, wherever I am, it's like a makom of Shabbos, and it's the secret of what Moshe Rabbeinu also had to do when he encountered HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is Shalna Alecha Me'al Raglecha, as the Nefesh Chaim points out and the Arizal points out. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling Moshe is that when you're encountering me, you need to take off and disrobe yourself of that guf of Chashmal that was tainted by Bas Paro, who when she touched the body of Moshe Rabbeinu, that the body of Moshe Rabbeinu lost, so to speak, its Zehiru Ilah, its transcendent quality of illumination. It was born Mohul, it was illuminative of the entire world. But when that ore gets concealed and it falls into Klipas Noga, which is Bas Paro, which separates the world of Kedusha from the Gimel Klipas Atmeos, which is the palace of Paro. So in that place, the guf gets transformed into chashmal, and chashmal is like a klipas noga. It now has a certain element of impurity to it until Moshe Rabbeinu came back to the sneh, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, take off your shoe, take off your body, because at this point, you're going to have to encounter a new lavush. This is the guf HaChashmal. This is the fact that the body begins to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu rather than conceal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? That's the kadosh's chachma, that Moshe Rabbeinu was encountering the secret of the being mitchaber with the place and tachlis of bria, which is realizing that I don't know anything and transforming that place into a place of davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right here, right now, I can connect to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baal Shem Haguf HaKadosh Nikra Shabbos. And Shabbos is called Shabbos specifically because the body enters back into a place of inherent holiness. That it is the body itself which is the thing that determines the Kedusha of Shabbos. Shabbos, the vehicle for the light of Shabbos, is when the body is prepared, where we wash ourselves properly, where we go to mikvah properly, where we check ourselves, where we become prepared to be a merkava for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where the achila, where all of the processes of the body become holy and kodesh kodashim. And so Rabbi Nachman says, Shabbos is referred to as Shabbos because of the holiness in the body, in the aspect of vihine shava kebasro shenirpe meitzaraso. The drasha Chazal is that when it returns back to the way that the skin originally was, that language of shava, that language of Shabbos, that means that a person has been cured from the tzara'as, from the heaviness of the body during the week, from the pagam habris itself. And that's the light of Shabbos. Shabbos is being cured from our tzara'as. It's drawing down chachma. When a person draws down the moichin of chachma, they no longer have tzara'as. Tzara'as comes from Moichin the Bina alone. It comes from a perspective of separation, of a machlokas. That's where Lashon Hara comes from, where one thing is one thing and the other thing is another thing, and there's a battle between the two of them, and there's no unity, and I can speak Lashon Hara about myself because the way I was then is not the way I am now. And that's where tzara'as comes from, when all I have is eyes of Bina, and all I see is the proliferation of details. But when I can access into the Kedusha of Shabbos, which is the Kedusha of Chachma, which is Tachlis Yadei Shel Neda, which is the secret of Amarti Chachma V'hi Rechoyta Mimeni, which is the secret of the Emuna and the Chachma, that is the recognition that all that exists is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. At that place, we're no longer Balei tzara'as. The guf is healed because it's no longer jealous. It's no longer cravenous. It's no longer stuck in itself. It's no longer traumatized. At that point, we're mislabesh in a guf kadosh megan eden. The body becomes a guf kadosh megan eden. Hanikra basar. It's referred to as refined flesh. Bebechinas basar mi basri, and the secret of Chava, who's taken from Adam Arishon. Meaning to say that the body itself, as Chasidus Chabad always tells us, that in the future the body is going to be the final frontier in which the light of Hakadosh Baruch Hu is being miskala. And the Rebbe Shlita asks Sakashi, he says, in the one place we find that Moshe Rabbeinu's Rebbe was Matat. On the other hand, we see that Moshe Rabbeinu's body is matat, because this body, this chashmal, this clothing, which is in between, is referred to as the malach of matat. It represents that chashmal, that in-between place. So how could it be that on the one hand, the teacher of Moshe Rabbeinu was the malach matat, and on the other hand, the body of Moshe Rabbeinu was the malach matat? Zak the Heilige Rebbe Shlita, that in truth, the body is the best teacher in the world, because the body is the katnus, and anytime a person overcomes katnus and they learn how to access a new point of godless from within that katnus, that body has been transformed into the Rebbe, and then a person is learning from their own experience as a human being in reality itself. And that's how we have the ability of being mezachech the body. V'az nisrei meim mazlo. And when a person enters into this place, when a person aligns themselves and sees a unified purpose in all of the differentiated drives that exist within them, and they find a singular path in which to reveal this and a steady way of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what happens then is that there's a shinoi mazel. Shinoi makom, shinoi mazel. When I change my place, when I change my orientation to the place, I can change my mazel. That literally means that the way that I was functioning beforehand and all of the brokenness that I was stuck in and all of the narratives that I was stuck in were all my previous mazel. The destructive self-narratives are all stuck in our own conception of our mazel. That's the source that we come from. That's where my issues come from, etc., etc. The secret of shinoi mazel, of shifting my mazel, is breaking free from those traumatic kind of positions that we hold ourselves in, where we keep ourselves stuck within these negative self-judgments and negative narratives of ourselves, and we change our mazel. Because when a person has a new mazel, they can look at themselves differently. Va'az nisrei me mazlo, the mazel ascends upwards. Shehu basar me basro, v'zochel osher. And then what happens as a result of this, of rectifying the bris and attaching ourselves to emuna and tefillah, what comes next is ashirus muflages, enoughness, saturation, ashirus de kedusha, a belief that I have everything that I need. Ezehu ashir hasameach bechelko. I no longer have to run. I no longer have to operate from a perspective of scarcity or impoverishment, or feel that I'm missing out, or FOMO, and that if I'm not there, then I'm not here. Adarabah, ipcha mastarba, when a person comes to unify and be matak in the bris and allow their body to be transformed into the place of tefillah, so at that place a person is zeichet ashirus muflages and ashirus bedas. In the secret of Birchas Hashem Hu Ta'asir, when a person accesses the bracha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is tefillah, so that's where the blessings of wealth and goodness and enoughness are going to come from. V'nitchazek Yitzhar HaTov, and what happens then is that a person has the ability to then do more good, Od Yoter Tov, then the Yitzhar HaTov is more revealed, then the self begins to actually express its truest desire, which is to grow in Avodas Hashem. We spend so much time trying to figure out how to enter into Avodas Hashem, or how to stop ourselves from falling outside of Avodas Hashem. That we become so satisfied with even the slightest semblance of Avodas Hashem because, okay, I'm not falling, so I might as well feel as good as I get. But that's still holding ourselves in a stuckness, because there is no limit to the levels of tainug that a person can experience in Avodas Hashem. There is no level to the spiritual development. There's no limit to the spiritual development that a person can uncover with themselves. But the process of looking at ourselves unfavorably and judging ourselves unfavorably and not being miyachid our bris properly leaves us stuck within an impoverished mindset of servitude, which says that at best we're meritorious of crumbs. But the truth of the matter is that each and every person can be a big tzaddik, Hamoini Mamish, like Rabbi Nachman himself, and like the Tanya starts off, Mashpia Noisaiti at tzaddik, that each person takes a swear that they're going to be a tzaddik, and when a person owns themselves as a tzaddik, so then they can have aliyos and avodas Hashem. We can grow. Our Yetzer Hara can grow. We can conquer new vistas. Our learning can take on more of a lishmakite. Our tefillah of yesterday can be seen as having not even been considered tefillah in relationship to the tefillah that I'm zocha to today. That there's no limit to the te'ima and the tam that a person can access in each and every new orientation of looking at Metzias to draw down more and more emunah. And so as a result of the tikkun abris and the rectification of the body to be the site of emunah, I draw down ashiras, which is okayness, and then with that okayness and that saturation of enoughness, then I can open up my Yetzer HaTov and it can grow upwards. The secret of the Lev Basar. That's the Tachlis of Breslov. It's Osios Lev Basar, to have a heart of flesh, to realize that I don't know and that I'm climbing and I'm always climbing, but climbing not from a place of smallness, but from a place of enoughness. That's the secret of the Yetzer HaTov. Matzah Isha Matzah Tov. Just as Adam Arishon finds the holiness of his body with the Basar Me Basri, which is a secret of the Malchus that emerges after the Chesed, Gvura, and Teferes, so too the Yetzer Tov is going to reveal more and more goodness, which is the secret of Matzah Isha Matzah Tov, that when a person has found Emunah, when a person has found Tefillah, they're going to find more and more goodness. The Yetzer Tov is going to continue to grow. V'zehu, and this is the secret of Kol HaShofer Hoilech V'chazek Ma'od. This is the secret of the voice of the shofar by Matan Torah that is slowly but surely expressing itself with new ferocity, intensifying itself, slowly but surely growing in its intensity, so that it never stops growing, but it extends itself with more and more strength, extending itself outwards further and further. This is what happens when the body is properly refined. The secret of the Kol HaShofar Hayoytze Megufa Shapira. This is the secret of the voice of the shofar that comes out of a refined body. The song of the body is the Shir Pashat Kafel Meshulish Meruba. That the Shir Meruba is the body itself that's singing the song, the body that pulls itself through Kriyas Yamsuf, that goes from Mitzrayim into Geula. It's that body that becomes the site of the song. It's that body, the Kinor Shel David, that got played every midnight when HaKadosh Baruch Hu was coming down to Gan Eden to be Mishta'ashea with the neshamos of the tzaddikim in Gan Eden, was not necessarily the harp of David Malka, but it was the heart itself of David HaMelech. The 8 strings was the bina of David, which means to say that each and every human being is the musical instrument that they are meant to be playing the song of HaKadosh Baruch Hu through. And when the neshama is illuminated within the body, so then the body allows itself to express the sound of the shofar, the Shir Pashat Kafel Meshulish Umeruba. That's what Rabbi Nachman points out. The Kol HaShofar Hayoytze Megufa Shapira. The Kol Zeh Bechinas Tefillah Hanizkar La'el. And all of these voices, and all of the expression of the body, and all of the healthy expression of the body, so much of Tefillah is built upon the proper orientation to the body and the preparation of the body. At that place, we enter in fully to Tefillah, and it gets stronger and stronger. Hoilech v'chazak ma'od. What's ma'od? Ma'od is mammon, v'chol ma'odecha, with all of one's money, with all of one's possessions, because now one of the things that creates the biggest perspective of deficiency and scarcity is our possessions, is our objective attachments to things. And if I have too little, I'm impoverished. If I have too much, I'm impoverished. Every person feels impoverished when they're looking at their metzias based on their objective kind of portfolio of what they have. But when a person frees themselves from this notion of chasing wealth and they open themselves up to the place of satisfaction of Ezu Hashir Asamech Bechelko, that's where the tefillah can express itself further and further and further. Because I'm not davening from a place of urgency of wanting something from HaKadosh Baruch Hu like a dog that's begging. I have enough, and I'm praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give me more and more goodness. Shenetchazek mazlo v'yitzra tov, because the self is now looking at itself in a different way. I have a new level of a Yetzirah. The koyach that I had yesterday has been increased. I have more of an ability to overcome the difficulties. V'nespatel ha'atzvus v'haleitzanes habarim imarishchera. And as a result of this, I get rid of all of the things that were blocking me, the sadness of the body, the leitzanes of the body. The leitzanis of the body, the mocking of reality, the denial of any value or significance. That's the ikar of Pegam Habris. It's Yalala. If Tikkun Habris is the recognition that there is hyperessentiality to reality, the Pegam Habris is this kind of heretical laughter that denies meaning, this nihilistic cackling that says there's no purpose, leis din v'leis dayan, there's no need to focus on anything. That's what keeps the body so heavy. It comes from that place of Marashchera. He atzva, says Rabbi Nachman, machmas dachkus va'anios. Sadness comes about as a result of feeling that I'm impoverished, that I don't have enough, that I'm pressured, that there's too much emphasis being placed on all of the things that I need to do in order to be okay, rather than being okay itself. And leitzanis comes from the skleikas ksil. It's this nihilistic Zarathustrian laughter that denies any significance, and it says, no, leis din v'leis dayan, a person can do whatever they want, don't connect to anything. It's the opposite of tikkun habris. In the element of the tchol l'soichik, that the tchol, the extension of the liver, is where the laughter comes from, where the body in its deficiency comes from. But as a result of the kedusha and the tikkun abris and the emuna, we're zochet ha'ashirus hein nispatlim al yedei hamazel shel ashirus. When a person begins to look at themselves through a mazel of ashirus, a mazel of ashirus is that I have enough, hasameach bechelko. As Rabbi Nachman explains in Torah Samach, the Tikkunim of Atik, the Torah of Atik is the Torah of Ashirus. It's coming from a place of the psoiles of the luchos, that I can find wealth in even the littlest bit if I'm confident in what I have and I'm comfortable with what I have and I'm not chasing imagined goals for myself. In that place, I can be mevatel the Marashchira and the late Sanas. And in addition, what I'm going to have is I'm going to have an extended territory of Meitzer Hatov. I'm going to want to do more and more good. Let's go a little bit weiter. I hope this is my understanding of the Torah. Again, I don't know if it's true. The Yetzer Hatov, when it's illuminated, expresses itself most fundamentally within the right side of the heart. As Chazal tell us that the heart has a right side and a left side. Bechia is rooted in the left side of the heart, and happiness is rooted on the right side of the heart, meaning to say that the right side of the heart, lev chacham liyamino, that the right side of the heart is where the chacham looks at. The Yetzer Tov is associated with chachma, lev ksil l'smoilo, but the foolish heart is going towards the left side, meaning it's chasing after the Yetzer Hara. Ubiyamin, what does it mean, the right side, where the Yetzer Tov is? Hu hamekim as hanoiflim la'ahavos liyiros raos. When we say that a person has to access their Yetzer Tov to awaken themselves to new moichin of ashiras, to realize that chidush kamoni lo haya me'olam, in that place we have the ability of elevating ourselves and others who have fallen into fallen forms of love and fallen forms of fear. That people, all of us, we live our lives caught within the klipos of ahava and yira until we're mataken ahava and yira. And when we have ahava and yira for HaKadosh Baruch Hu and for Torah and Tefillah, so then it's going to go upwards. And those are the wings that are going to enable our Tefillah and our Torah to go upwards. But if we don't, it's not that we don't have ahava and yira. A human being will always have ahava and yira. They are the two modalities in which the self expresses itself. It's not a question of whether I have it in me. It's a question of what is the direction towards which it is going. In my Kedusha, so my Av and Yira go to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When I'm not in a state of Kedusha, when I'm not in a state of Tikkun, so my Av and Yira are going to go to fallen things, fallen anxieties, fallen desires. And when a person has the ability of going through this process of rectifying the body and bringing it back to a place of Amunah, so we have the ability of elevating all of those fallen parts of ourselves and others and the Welt at large, which has fallen into the foolish forms of love and the foolish forms of fear, and we can bring them back into holy forms of love and holy forms of fear. And the secret of what the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh spoke about so often in Tikkun Amidos is that when you have an ahava nefula, elevate that ahava back to its place. What is love? What is desire? What is wanting attachment? Why do I want attachment? Where do I want to climb to? And when a person abstracts that emotion from its trapped place within that worldly taiva, so then I can bring it all the way back to come to realize that, wait a second, ahava is a midah in the neshama, which is reflective of a midah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and in that place I can come to identify with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that can be mamtik all things. And that's how I elevate the fallen ahava and yira up to a higher level of ahava. And this is the element of Kol haneshama tahalelka, that the entirety of the soul is going to scream out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When the body is refined, when the Yetzer Atov is mahapich the Yetzer Hara, and the Malach Ra is Omer Amen, and the guf becomes a guf kadosh, and it becomes Shabbos, and every place begins to be a place that I can reveal Hashem, every element of the soul is breathing out praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ki amino ma'avir hachoshech meinehem, because when we awaken the right side of things, when we awaken the goodness of the heart, the goodness of the neshama, the goodness of the body, the goodness of all things, when we have the proper tikkun of the bris, so at that point we get rid of the darkness that's been blocking our eyes, we get rid of the sadness, we get rid of the despondency, we get rid of the perspectives of scarcity and deficiency and impoverishment, and we open our eyes up to ashiras, va'az einehem royos neflos, and then our eyes can behold greatness, we can behold wonders, but bechinas gal einai va'abita neflos, that open up my eyes and let me behold the wonders of this world, the wonders of my body, the wonders of what it means to be a human being in this world. V'haneflos ha'eluhim bechinas Pesach. And these neflaos that we're going to get to, these wondrous transformations of geula, of leaving servitude, of leaving the broken nature of the body, of leaving the atzvus and the atzlus and the litzanas, all of that is the element of the chesed debayim kol yuma, the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to bestow goodness. That's the light of Avram Avinu, the light of chesed, which is the light of the right side, the chesed, which is the secret of ki meitzeitztam me'eretz Mitzrayim, ereinu neflaos, the wondrous revelations that are going to take place when the body itself is going to be revealed to be the sight height in which Malchus is receiving Chachma itself, in that place there's going to be the Niflaos of Geula itself, the Niflaos of the element of Pesach, which is the right side of things, which is the wonders like the days that I left Mitzrayim. And the Pesach is the secret of Pesach. The secret of Pesach is that I could open my mouth, I could daven. So we see how Rabbeinu is drawing everything back together. That all of this is bringing us to a place where we can speak words of Emunah. When we speak words of Emunah, we have the Bechina of Torah's emes haisa b'pihu, that the mouth itself is reflective of the precise words of Torah, because every place that a person finds themselves then is going to be the place in which they encounter HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Nachshav ki'ilu baras ha'olam, and in that place, when a person says words of Torah that are true, when a person says points of connectivity, when they rectify the body, at that point they become part and parcel of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Bria. They become like a shutaf with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us, that He wants us to rectify our body and to bring Geula to ourselves. When we bring Geula to ourselves and we exit the avdus of the self and we taste the cheres of the self, only to go back through that same process again, we're Boyer the Oilam. We're the ones who are creating new worlds. We're the ones who have shifted our mazel. We're the ones who have shifted the stuckness, and by way of shifting the stuckness, we create a new world. We reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu wherever we are. This line is so powerful. What Rabbi Nachman is saying over here is that when a person accesses this place of Torah's emes haisa b'pihu, and there's the yichud of the body and the soul, so nechshav kilu baras olam. So then a person has created a new vantage point in which they can be seen by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in which they can see everybody else in the world. And in that place of rectifying the darkness, we see that at the beginning, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the sun and the moon, it says Yehi Ma'oros. And I'm assuming that Yehi Ma'oros over here means that it was written Chaser, and the Levana represents the Chisaron and Malchus, and the Levana represents all of the concealment that the body goes through, and all of the travails and tribulations that the difficult life puts onto the body, and the jail cell of the body, and the shame that the body keeps us stuck in. And that's Ma'oris Chaser, that's the Pagam HaLevana. That's when Malchus descends downwards. That's when we don't have the Tikkun Abris. But when we could be Meyached, all of the Shlosh of Avim together, and we could be Matakin Malchus itself to be the place of Amunah and Tachlas Eyadiyah Shalei Neda, where Malchus is reflective most fundamentally of the Chachma Ilah, which is the secret of Abi Sabrata, and that place, V'avar Choshech Shachise Pnei Tahom. We get rid of the darkness that was covering over the Tahom. There was choshech al pnei tahom, as the pasuk says, but over here Rabbeinu is saying that by doing this process of rectifying malchus, we get rid of the choshech al pnei tahom. We get rid of the darkness covering over our eyes, and we give ourselves access to see the world with new eyes of light. Ve'or ha'inayim ma'alin gam kol habakashos va'atchinos asher yispalalu el beis hamikdash. And when we can elevate our eyes, and when we can look upwards to a new perspective of chachma, and our tefillah is rolling because the body is no longer in a place of separation from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but it becomes the very place in which I encounter HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the light of my eyes, the light of the eyes, the secret of Gal Einai Va'abita Neflos Misarasecha, that the opening of the eyes of Chachma, it takes all of the tefillos, it takes everything, and it directs it to that place where all of the eyes of the world are focused, which is the land that HaKadosh Baruch Hu focuses his eyes on, which is the Beis HaMikdash itself. Hisham oilim kol habakashos. That's where tefillah goes into that place of hyperessentiality. The Kodesh HaKadoshim is Tikkun Abris. Why? Because the Kodesh HaKadoshim is the Iker Nakuda that holds everything together. It's the Evan HaShasiyah, where a person can be mitzamsim themselves and contain all of their energies and all of their desires and all of their drives, and to condense it all into one singular pointed drop of attentional attitude. And what I'm focusing on in this moment, when my mind is on this word, there is no yichud greater than that. When I'm talking to this person, there's no yichud greater than that. That's the secret of Tikkun Abris. That's the secret of David HaMelech, who was always searching for Beis HaMikdash. Any encounter that he had in his life, he was searching for the makom of Mikdash within that experience, for the makom of Dash, for that place of creating the entirety of the world through the Tikkun of Bris. The Beis HaMikdash is the place where all tefillos go up to. Umisham ha'or einayim yotza. It's also the place where the light of the eyes comes out from. So all of the eyes look towards the Beis HaMikdash, and from the Beis HaMikdash itself, our eyes gain strength. In the Bechina of V'haya eina v'libi sham, that my eyes, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and my heart, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, are towards the Beis HaMikdash. V'or ha'einayim ma'irim ha'geula ha'tliya b'leiv. And when we can rectify our hearts and we can rectify our bodies and we open our bodies up into a leiv basar and we become vulnerable with our bodies and we rectify the body and we transform it into a guf kadosh, at that point the heart awakens the eyes, and the eyes which are dependent, the heart is dependent on the eyes, right? It's lo tasir acharei levavchem acharei einechem, that the Einayim and the Lev are deeply connected. And here we see as well that when a person awakens their heart to connectivity to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Einayim are woken, which are Chachma, and I look upwards towards the revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that rectifies the heart, which is the place of Geula. When a person goes through this process, it awakens via Sageula. When a person finds Mashiach in their own life through this process, it's bringing the day of Geula closer. That's where the heart of the Yid is going to be revealed to be the place of fullness. That's the place where we can be Mamtik the Tzimtzum. That is the Eben HaShasiyah. That is the Makom of the Tzimtzum. That's the secret of the day of Geula, which is dependent on the heart, ki yom nakom belibi, that the day of Geula, the day of HaKadosh Baruch Hu fully taking out his wrath, so to speak, and taking revenge on the nations of the world, on the brokenness of the body, which has blocked us so long. So that's the place that Geula is hidden. And just as the heart can't be revealed, that day of Geula can't be revealed. But the eyes have the ability of awakening the heart. And when we can awaken our eyes by way of looking upwards and elevating our bodies and davening properly, so we awaken the day of Geula, we awaken the Geula that's karuv, that's hidden within the heart. In the aspect of hinayom nakom belibi keinayo veliboy sham v'zebechinas v'yikra leor yom. When I enter into that place of chachma, when I enter into that place of bittul, when I enter into that place of the rectification of amuna, this is the secret of HaKadosh Baruch Hu calling the day light. That the lightness of the eyes is where the light comes from. When I can look at the world with eyes of goodness, as Rabbeinu says that when I can look outwards on the world with eyes of goodness, that itself is the tikkun, that itself is the rectification. That brings out more and more light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as we learned in Torah Ayin Beis of Histaklus Oisa Kli, that bitachon and looking outwards is what enables us to draw down light. So listen to what Rabbeinu says. This brings us closer to Pesach. That the daytime is referred to as illumination and light. Why? Because the or ha'einin ma'irim yoim nokam shebelev. Because the light of day is awoken by the eyes that are seeking to draw out redemption from within the depths of the heart itself. Levatel sa'or v'chametz shel ha'yetzer lev ha'adam ra hanishar lo min urav. All of this is to get rid of the chametz in our hearts. All of this is to get rid of the Yetzer Hara. All of this is to get rid of the leiv haksil, which goes to the small, which wants to look at the world with eyes of atzvus and yalala and leitzanas and pegam habris, and not to focus on the body, but to despise the body and to be stuck in ta'anesim and sigufim, and to not live the light of tainug amiti, which is the secret of allowing the body to be part and parcel of the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rabbeinu says that a person cannot refrain from sharing the spiritual insights of the neshama with the body itself, because the body is what is going to keep score of the future, and that's where the geula is coming from. When we get rid of the chametz in the heart, the saor v'chametz shebelev ha'adam, and what is the chametz that we have in our hearts? What is that brokenness that we're trying to clear ourselves from? Says Rabbeinu, hu hamesit as ha'adam sheyaharher acher talmidei chachamim shebedor v'leimor zeh na'eh v'zeh lo na'eh v'b'chinas chalak libam. When a person has an issue internally, it means that they're now going to begin trying to decide who's good, who's bad, this person's status, that person's status. They're going to be judging this and they're going to be judging that. They're going to be stuck in moichin of tzaras. They're going to be stuck in moichin of lashon hara, and they're going to continuously be making judgments about things outside of themselves, when in truth what a person should be focusing on internally is the goodness that is inherent within the eyes themselves. But when I'm stuck in bina, so it's chalak libam, so my heart is separated. I'm no longer operating a place of unity. What's libam? Libam is the gematria of 72, which is the secret of the ayin-based tzaddikim shebedor, the 72 tzaddikim who operate in the universe, the 36 tzaddikim in Eretz Yisrael, and the 36 tzaddikim in Chutz La'aretz, the light of Chachman, the light of Bina, the light of Nishmas Yisrael. When a person is not tasting the light of tzaddik, when a person has a chiluk in their leiv, they begin to speak lashon hara. They begin to think that they know better. They begin to think that, ani va'asvi od, I'm the one who has the mark of understanding what good spirituality is versus what bad spirituality is, and that ultimately leads to gaiva, and it leads to more discrepancy of the body and the soul, which leads to more enslavement and sadness. And this is the secret of Or La Arba Asar, the night of the 14th. On the 14th night of Nisan, when we go out to be boidek l'chametz, hainu or shebe'enayim sheyesh b'shnei pa'amim shiva gildei ena shem boidken as chametz. Rabbi Nachman says that as Chazal tell us, each and every eye has 7 layers to it. There's 7 parts of the eyes, which means that for 2 eyes, there's going to be 14 elements of the eye. So listen to what Rabbeinu is saying. Or la'arba asar, the light that comes out of the 14 elements of the eye, meaning the redemption that I create internally that then allows my eyes to look outwards with eyes of enoughness and to see the world as hine makom iti, and that everywhere that I look, I see everything. In that place, that's how we get rid of the chametz, by awakening the light within our eyes and to search out the chametz. It's an incredible, incredible, incredible way of thinking about what bedikas chametz is, that I'm awakening my own eyes internally to see with eyes of goodness how all of the discrepancies are just going to fall away. And then a person is able to transform the Yetzer Hara itself into a place of shalhuvin derachimu, the flames and the bonds and the cords of love that want to yearn upwards to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Torah, and mayim rabim shem avos yiros v'chitzonius, and all of the external things which previously took me away from my love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's impossible for them to cool off this burning desire of the neshama to go upwards, 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 when we access that light of tzidkus within ourselves, where we just want more goodness, more hiskarvus to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, kirvas aleikem litov. V'hashchina, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence in this world, he mechase bekanfeha al dimhoin shel Yisrael ba'ahava hazos, shelo yishlutu aleihem zerem mereim, shem bechinas mehamabu. This love that we awaken within ourselves, this desire that we have to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu more, it's in truth the protection that the Shekhinah HaKadosha gives us in this world. Every ounce of love and burning desire that we have for HaKadosh Baruch Hu is an awakening from the Shekhinah who's protecting us with her wings to give us access to this ahava, that covers us from the shameful tendency of the body, and it gives us the ability to feel okay about ourselves. It protects our blood. The Shekhinah protects us. It protects our bodies, which are composed of blood. With this love that our neshamas have, the Shekhinah takes it and it corrects a protective device in the secret of Shelo Yishletu Aleihem Zerem Mereim, so that nothing bad should happen to Klal Yisrael, that the Yid shouldn't find themselves falling away from love or falling out of love with the Kadosh Baruch Hu Chas v'Shalom. Because the only thing that could theoretically burn out or douse those cords of love is the Mehamabu, when there's a mabul that comes down. But the Shekhinah HaKadosha uncovers this burning love that happens once we begin to rectify our body, the Ahava HaMesuteres Shebelev, this undying love that is always there at every single moment, waiting to be revealed, waiting to be redeemed. This is the secret of how we're going to be protected in exile. This is the secret of someone who does an avera, someone who transgresses, and they feel embarrassment as a result of it. Again, embarrassment, not shame. Shame does absolutely nothing to help me move away from destructive behaviors. It actually perpetuates destructive behaviors. Guilt is what helps me break free from destructive behaviors. The guilt and the embarrassment that I feel over that negative feeling, which is the blood of Klal Yisrael, which is being killed through that busha over being away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that very awareness is going to be the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees, and he's going to protect me. This is the secret of ki al kol pshayim techaseh ahava, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu covers over all of the blemishes with love. There's a love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for us, which is reflected by the love that we awaken within our hearts for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when we awaken that undying love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when we bring our body into the love story with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends down a new form of love, a love from the Shekhinah HaKadosha, which now has seen what we truly want. And it's the secret of Akol Pshayim Techaseh Ahava, that the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the compassion of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, gets rid of all of the shame, it gets rid of all of the brokenness of the body, it gets rid of all of the Marash Chayr and the Atzvus and the Lesanis, and it enables me to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu again, it enables me to enter into Shabbos. V'az hashchina mechase damo ba'ahava. I'm sorry, I skipped a line. What does it mean? I'll call up Shim Techase Ahava. Ki al yidei habusha nishpach damo. That when a person is embarrassed, when a person is ashamed of themselves, when a person feels that they've done something that is not matim to who they actually are, any form of busha is like a misa, Chazal tell us. That the blood in the face dissipates, it goes down, the face becomes white, and that's shvichas dam. That's why a person who embarrasses their friend or their fellow, it's as if they've murdered them, because being ashamed, having that feeling of embarrassment, of realizing, "Oy lanu- o lanu liyom hadin, oy lanu liyom hatachacha," when we realize, oh my gosh, how much of HaKadosh Baruch Hu could I have actually had in this world? So when a person comes to that recognition, so damo nifshvach, their blood is spilt. And in that place, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is makayim the mitzvah of kisui dam. He covers over the spilt blood of Klal Yisrael. The spilt blood of Klal Yisrael, which is spilled by way of busha, by way of falling back into the natural tendencies of the body, and he protects us with that reinvigoration of love, that ability to renew the love song with HaKadosh Baruch Hu even after we've fallen. That's a secret of kisui hadam, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu covers over the dam of Yisrael, that's nishpacha, yedei the busha, and through this kisoy, HaKadosh Baruch Hu enables us to move forward in a little bit more light and a little bit more growth. With this, we'll just finish up in the last paragraph, just for the sake of reading it. These words I'm just going to read. These are Dvar Mafchidim, this whole Torah are Dvar Mafchidim, but let's look again what Rabbi Nosson adds to this entire idea that Rabbeinu is teaching us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu rotze litom mitzvahs aseh shel isha Yisraeli shu tzaddik. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to benefit, so to speak, from the avodah that we give him in this world. Hashem wants our mitzvahs. Hashem desires our tefillos. HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires the tefillos of the righteous. Hashem wants us to serve him from down here. Hashem has enough malachim. Hashem doesn't need perfect bodies or things without bodies. Hashem wants the body itself to come to serve him. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to be toyim from those mitzvos that the Isha Yisraeli does, so we have an issue that HaKadosh Baruch Hu eating from what a Jewish person is doing is Eiver min hachai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps the Torah, so to speak. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu cannot eat a living creature. And when a person is engaged in their avodas Hashem and they have all of their moichin, they're like a living creature. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't eat from a living creature because that's Ever Menachai. So the creature has to be shechted, the individual has to be shechted so that HaKadosh Baruch Hu could benefit from our avodah. So what does it mean that the individual has to be shechted so that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to be eating from Ever Menachai, chas v'shalom? Sarach shchita lahatira. The individual, the neshama, has to be shechted. Ba'al kein sarach sheyavo olav busha. How is the neshama shechted? By busha. Either a busha over a tshuva that I have to do, or a busha in realizing how far I am from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shu shvichas damim. It's the element of having my blood spilled, which is the element of the shchita, which is the shehi metaheres ha'ever menachai, which now enables HaKadosh Baruch Hu to partake from this avodah that I'm offering, because I'm no longer a living person. Alecha hergenu kol hayom. We kill ourselves for you each and every day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, through the busha of not having binyan beis hamikdash, of not having geula. It's that element of shchita. It's that metaheres ha'ever menachai. Ve'az yachol Hashem yisparach litoy me'ah mitzvos aseh shelo bein mitzvos aseh achas bein mitzvos rabos. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu can eat all of the mitzvos, so to speak. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu would see the greatness of ourselves ascending upwards. Ki mitzvos nikraim matamim. That the mitzvos that we do in this world are referred to as pleasantries. They're referred to as pleasant food. They're referred to as pleasant tasting things, like the pasuk says when Yitzchak Avinu asked Yaakov to go out, "Va'asuli matamim kasher ahavti," go out and be mevar birurim, those birurim that come from the iskafia and the ishafcha of refining this worldliness, of taming the body, as the Baal Tanya describes as well on this very pasuk. Only when the body is shechted through busha can HaKadosh Baruch Hu partake of those matamim which come out from our bodies themselves, our avodah. Ukeshenishbach damo al yedei habusha. And when a person has their blood spilled as a result of the busha, azay tzarich l'shmor in a place like that, in vulnerability, where a person is prior to tshuva, where a person is feeling vulnerable and not confident in their avodas Hashem, so at that point they have to protect themselves very strongly, because it's the lull prior to the ascent upwards. But in that place of the lull prior to the ascent upwards, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu has not yet protected me with this kisoy hadam, with this covering of al kol pshaim tachaseh ava, so then there's going to be chitzonim sharotzim lianik mesa hadam hanishbach, because they're like vultures that smell the blood of Nishmas Yisrael, they want to run after it, and they want to run after the busha of Nishmas Yisrael, and they want to take that busha and transform it into toxic shame rather than healthy spiritual guilt that can propel us forwards. And that's the secret of HaKadosh Baruch Hu covering us over. Al kein srichim kisoy. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to cover over our blood. Sha'ashchina mechased dimhoin shel Yisrael. That the Shechina comes along and it covers over the blood of Nishmas Yisrael that's been spilled with this deep love, which is the secret of Kasher Ahavti. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves Avodas Yisrael. V'zeh Bechinas kisoy hadam. This is the element of kisoy hadam. Zak the Heilige Rebbe, Ubenian shvichas hadam shel Yisrael, and with regards to the actual spilling of the blood of Nishmas Yisrael, Yishtavar Milyonim and Estarim Harbe, there are profoundly elevated and hidden mysteries. Ben shvichas damim al yedei busha, when a yid is shechted through busha, or any other forms of shvichas damim mamish rachmana litzlan. Kiesh kama v'kama neshamos nefulos. There are many, many types of souls that have fallen. She'en lehem aliyah kim al yedei shvichas damim shel Yisrael shel Adam Gadol, that are only elevated through the shvichas damim of Adam Gadol, through the busha of an Adam Gadol. Ulapamim ein lehem aliyah kim al yedei shvichas damim mamish rachmana litzlan. And sometimes it's, again, this is all sugyas of Mashiach ben Yosef. Mashiach ben Yosef is the neshama kolelas that also has to be killed before the coming of Mashiach ben David. But we know that we have the ability to daven that Mashiach ben Yosef never has to die ever again, in order to ensure that Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David can be mechuber together. And this is the element of Zidonis Nasim Kezechuyos, that the Zidonos, the thing, that place that I experience busha, is in fact going to be something that awakens me to a closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because then I could come out of the busha, then I can rectify my body and come to find the HaKadosh Baruch Hu everywhere. That through the busha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu covers us over with this love that gives us the ability to remember Ahavas Nu'urayach, to remember the fact that we can return back to love over and over and over and over again, to start anew as if we haven't started before. This is the secret of HaKadosh Baruch Hu covering all of the blemishes with love. And all difficulty and all falling is transformed into a merit. And all of those neshamos that are stuck, all of those parts of ourselves that are stuck, they ascend upwards. Those parts of ourselves which are rooted in the pshayim, in the stuckness, and they ascend themselves upwards, and they're protected through that secret of the kisoy dam, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows us to be protected with the ahava. That's the Torah. First and foremost, the words themselves should be ma'oris chus. The fact that we're reading the words, and the fact that we know through the tzaddikim that we're reading words that Rabbeinu wrote on a different level than the Likkutei Moharan. We're reading words of a Sefer HaNisraf, and the words, clearly what a person senses in this Torah is the entire story of the person's life, from beginning, middle, and end, the entire story of history, beginning, middle, and end. But the most important thing to maintain when we read a Torah like this is true for any Torah, especially in elements that are hidden within the Likkutei Moharan, but it's amarti achakmeh v'hirechoikim mimeni, the sense that I still don't understand, the sense that I don't know what I just read fully, or I don't know exactly what the totza'ah is an okay feeling to have, because the Torah is doing the work. But nevertheless, what we see is that we have the ability to free ourselves from this compulsory form of divine service, of racing, trying to satisfy ourselves, and coming to a place of enoughness, coming to a place of rectification of the body, coming to a place of being okay, coming to a place of Shabbos, coming to a place of Geula, coming to a place of Tefillah, coming to a place of realizing that every makom in this Welt is a makom of Tefillah, every ounce of feeling that a person has is an element, or I can enter in and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu there. And with that perspective, we can open ourselves up for Sefer HaNisraf, to our neshamos burnt and illuminated, so that there should be a fire that burns within the heart. It's a fire that's burning in Breslov. It's a fire that's burning in the heart of each and every Yid, and it's the Eisheli Tukar Ad Vias Mashiach. It's a secret of that fire of Bina that Rabbeinu awakens within our hearts, that allows it to burn until the coming of Mashiach, which allows our eyes to look upwards and see more and more goodness. Be'ezras Hashem.